So we're going to go ahead and get things started. My name is David Grant. I'm an enterprise solutions manager here at AMC Technology. I've been here at AMC for 5 years, going on 6 years. In that time, I've worn a few different hats. I've been an account executive, a customer success manager, and now an enterprise solutions manager. In my roles, I've had an opportunity to speak with a lot of our customers, prospective and current. And as a result, in those 5 years, I've really seen quite a lot of change in the questions that I'm getting from current and prospective customers, along with partners of ours who are looking for solutions for potential shared customers. And so I'm really excited to speak with Praveen, who I'm going to turn it over to in a moment, about one particular thing that we're getting a lot of questions about, which is IVAs, Gen AI or otherwise. So Praveen, if you could introduce yourself, please.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, David. Hi, everyone. My name is Praveen Ravela. I've been with AMC for more than 15 years, working at different roles within the organization, and currently as Chief Technology Officer and Head of Product and Services and Solutions at AMC. I'm really excited to have a conversation with David and share as to what we are hearing from our customers and what are the things that they are really excited about, and utilizing especially the conversation, how to provide conversational AI and IVA to their end customers.
Really, this is about conversational AI, right? It's something that we're all dealing with in some way, shape, or form in our everyday lives. You know, you can't Google something without it presenting you with the Gemini response. We've all got it in our iPhones at this point with Apple AI. And we're all, or I should speak for everybody, but I know that I am using it a lot more often in my everyday life when it comes to things as simple as making a dairy-free pancake recipe for my wife, right? But what, Praveen, based on your experience and, some of the customer calls I've brought you in on, what would you say really is the best way for a company to understand whether it's right for their contact center, whether conversational AI is something that they should be taking a look at? Understanding, as this slide says, that it's not plug and play right now. There is development and some work that needs to be done. So what are some of the things that some of the questions that people need to ask themselves as they're taking a look at whether or not using Gen AI in their IVA is something that they ought to take a look at right now?
Yeah, that's a very good question, David. I mean, when we talk to customers, by this point, almost every customer, every contact center or every business have an IVR in place.
Yes.
I mean, the main objective is how to address customer questions, queries, and anything as automated as possible, so that customers are able to get quick responses rather than waiting in queues for a long time before they can reach an actual human agent. That's the whole idea behind providing that fast responses to the customer and being able to be there for the customer at any 24/7 and be available. As we all are aware of, and even contact center faces, most of the times customers are fed up with the traditional IVRs, asking questions, having to key in digits, are not able to understand clearly, and most of the time we just try to find a key that is going to skip the IVR and then just go directly to the agent.
Right.
And that's what a lot of contact centers, when we talk to, they express the same thing. No one wants to go through that existing system anymore. They just trying to find ways to skip it and move on and have a conversation. So that clearly, contact center clearly understand that everyone is, all of us as individuals want to have a natural conversation and get their issues, questions, or anything that they're looking for to be addressed and get this resolved and move on quickly. And at the same time, none of the customers none of us wants to wait in any queues for hours and hours or even minutes. We don't want to wait. Whenever we call in, we want to talk to someone and get our questions answered. That's what every business is looking for as to how to provide such an experience to their end customers, so that they are able to provide an experience where everyone who is contacting a business is having a natural conversation with that business and be able to get the services resolved, address questions resolved, issues resolved, or services being utilized in a natural conversation way. And that's the expectation. Businesses realize that today, and they're trying to find ways in how to accomplish it. I know there's a lot of the real challenge that most of the customers bring to us is depending upon where business is today, where their contact center, what are the technology stack that they have today. What does it take for them to move to a place where they're able to enable that conversational experiences with their end customer, that they can provide that conversational experiences to their end customers, and if so, at what cost, and what's the complexity involved in making that transition?
Right, and it's worth mentioning that we're hearing from customers, because this slide is more broad, right, than just the IVA piece, because there is a lot around Gen AI that we can explore within a contact center. And normally, one informs the other, right? So we're having a lot of customers come to us and ask us about transcription. And they're not only asking about enabling transcription because they want to be able to read back through the conversations that their agents are having with their customers. They also want to be able to use that transcription to drive what it is that's listed here: sentiment analysis. What was the overall tone and vibe of the call, if you will? Are the word tracks and trainings that we're giving our agents eliciting a positive response from the customers that we're talking to? And it also would help quite a lot in terms of automating some quality assurance, some QA, so that you don't have to spend hours and hours listening to calls. It might be able to provide a summary for you about, how did that call go? And so I can imagine, and Praveen, tell me if this makes sense to you, that a lot of the flow of this interaction could really look like somebody calling in, speaking to a Gen AI IVA. The Gen AI IVA, for one reason or the other, isn't able to solve the problem via the self-service methods that it is designed to do, because it might be a retention sort of call. It may require escalation, things of that nature. That could get passed to the agent who's going to be answering, so that they have a much better context about what that conversation was. And then later on, after a resolution has been brought and that call is reviewed by a supervisor, they're able to take a look at that transcription. They're able to see the sentiment of that call. They can read a summary about it. All the data that it's taking can be fed into reporting and things of that nature. So the Gen AI IVA piece that we're going to be talking about is one slice of what makes a bigger pie in terms of what it is that's possible. Would you agree, Praveen?
Yes, pretty much you're taking a use case of end-to-end customer journey.
Yeah.
That's what we're looking. That's what the whole thing that I can simplify it to. Obviously, every CX leader, their primary objective is to provide a best end-to-end customer experience. So that would be, the initial part is the conversational experience that can be as to how many interactions they can automate as possible, how many business use cases they can automate, and make it available through conversational intelligence, conversational AI to begin with. And of course, if there are certain use cases, business use cases that hasn't been automated yet for an IVA, conversational IVA to handle, then obviously they have to be, they get escalated to a real human agent. And yes, even at that level, as we are working with customers on how to bring AI assist using Gen AI for agents to be able to reduce average call handle time significantly than what they're able to achieve today without AI assist.
Yeah, and so even I do think that on topics like this, it's also important that we talk about, what is hype and what is already actually working. What is something that people can really sort of put their hands on right now? And when I think of that, I think of some of the commercials that we're seeing on regular television around conversational AI and things of that nature. Matthew McConaughey getting himself eating shrimp scampi or whatever outside in the pouring rain because the restaurant that he was got a reservation at didn't use Gen AI, and so they didn't know it was going to rain. And so when he scheduled his reservation outside, it didn't move him automatically inside and stuff like that, right? They're fun commercials. But in terms of just the Gen AI piece, what is something that's actually working right now that is a use case that we could see being fulfilled using what it is that's available, Praveen?
Yeah, that's a really good question, David. I mean, we had one of our customers who's a major car dealer in the US happened to have the same question. And we happened to work with them, and they actually initiated a project to explore that same question as to where the current technology is, how much is a hype versus what's the reality.
Yep.
For someone to be able to take on and be able to implement such kind of a solution today. So if you take that the stack that they have today, I mean, with their contact center as an example, and what they have, where they are today is they have an on-prem contact center technology stack.
Yep.
And they have a standard IVR, and they were not happy about how they are providing the services, the way they are providing services to their end customers using a standard IVR, where customer has to key in every single question, key in the responses to every single question, and that's where. And most of the times, the customer is skipping it and moving to the agent, but still they are hitting with waiting on the queue. And they pretty much initiated a project, and we happened to take that project and explore what the possibilities are. And the objective is, I mean, there are many ways to accomplish any single problem. So one of the things the objective that they want to get is, do I have to do, what are all the steps that I need to take? What are all the transformations that need to be taken to be able to get to conversational IVA? I mean, either they have to completely move from on-prem all the way to the cloud to begin with, cloud contact center to begin with, even before they explore conversational IVA, or is something that within their existing infrastructure, on top of their existing infrastructure, which is completely on-prem, and can a conversational IVA be plugged into the existing on-prem that they have without any disruptions? Can it be lit up?
Right.
So that's something that they want to understand, and so that they would be able to make a decision as to what the direction should be going forward, and how much of investment and how much of disruption they're looking to.
Yeah. So on that topic, we engaged in a sandboxing engagement with this customer, and what we did is we used what it is that's available in the market today, and we tested all the different use cases that they gave us. And we used a variety of technologies in order to do this. And since that engagement, we've had multiple other customers come to us with similar asks. And we've really been able to share a lot of stuff that we've learned through that engagement and through other engagements that we've had with the various technologies that's available. But so we're going to dive in a little bit more into those technologies and what it is that they are offering, or as you're going to see in the slide, what it is that they're cooking up for us. But we're not quite there yet. Praveen, I do have a question though. We're seeing a lot of interest in this, and it's really ramped up. I would say in like the last month, we've really seen a lot more interest in this. Why do you think these customer experience leaders and contact center managers are feeling the pressure to act now? What do you think is driving that?
Again, the way I see it, everything is driven through what's enabling as an individual from a public standpoint, right? Earlier, if you see, there is only phone channel used to be the king, and that's how everyone used to contact any business to get the things resolved. But as individuals, as a public, as technology is evolving and everyone is being made available. The public channels or social channels being enabled on each one of everyone's handheld devices. Now you have so many social channels, so many ways to communicate. That's what is going to make the businesses transform, where they see that they have to adopt how the technology is evolving and how individuals are adopting technology. And that's what is going to shape any business need that they have to evolve and to meet where the customers are today. Currently, everyone's expected. If you look at today's world, everyone is just getting answers through their handheld devices without even using any PCs. Earlier, PC is a way to go, but now no one wants to even touch a PC because everything can be done on a mobile now.
Right.
That goes with the comfort and conveniences that everyone is looking at as an individual. Comfort and convenience is being the key. And for a business perspective, they have, unless they are meeting that comfort and convenience, then obviously customer is looking for who else is providing that comfort and convenience to them than a business that is not providing it.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. So let's take a look at these different technologies. So one thing that we have that we believe that customers and partners really ought to think about when it comes to, what is the next step? How ready are we? What is it we want out of a Gen AI tool? We call it the 3 C's: comfort, complexity, and cost. So cost, that's pretty self-explanatory, right? How much is it going to cost in terms of time and effort to put something like this in place? On comfort, I think this is where a lot of comfort and complexity, I think, are two of the definitely most subjective measures here, right? Everybody has their own level of comfort or willingness to interact with AI. So for me, and in my own experiences, I like to talk to my friends and family about some of this stuff because they don't work in the contact center world at all. What they do is they interact with them just in their everyday lives. Like I've been in the living room while my mother has had to call an internet provider and listen to her have an experience with a contact center. So I don't really need to ask her opinion. She was quite loud about it, to be honest. I hope she doesn't watch this. But one thing that I hear from a lot of people, and you mentioned this earlier, Praveen, is, I talk about this with them. I say, what would you think about X, Y, and Z? And what they always say is, right now, what it is that the various companies have that I'm speaking with doesn't work. They say, I tell them what it is that I need. It says it doesn't understand. It says me to an agent. Is that the stuff that you guys are working on? And I'm always very quick to say no. Like, that's not, this Gen AI, these Gen AI tools that we are referring to today did not exist 5 years ago, right? This is fairly new stuff that is much more capable than what previously existed and what is in many people's environments today that are sort of exploring similar capabilities. And so for companies and customers internally, they also have their own experiences with these tools, and they probably have similar experiences that they share where they say, I called my bank and I didn't have a good experience with whatever IVA tool it was that they had. Why do we want something like that? And so I think it's important to understand that these are not the same things. And so on comfort, it's really about resetting expectations. How would you do that, Praveen? How do we help people reset expectations around what is possible, and what a reasonable expectation is for comfort?
Yes, probably again, probably we are seeing a slide about the comparisons more than
Yep.
the three C's. So again, from a comfort perspective, as we talked about, the comfort and convenience from an end user standpoint, everyone wants to get. I mean, no one calls a business just for the sake of it or for the fun of it, right?
Right.
Everyone has their own daily activities and a busy life, so they just want to call in because they're added to a problem, they have a question, they have a concern, or they just want to get something done as quickly as possible and move on and get back to whatever they do on a day-to-day basis.
Yes.
So given that, it's the comfort and the speed at which a business is able to render their services is how business CX and business are looking at on their success as a business going forward.
Yeah. And so on these options that we have here in front of us, Salesforce Agentforce, Copilot, and then Amazon Bedrock, Lex and Chime, I would say that when it comes to comfort, based on the interactions that we've had with these tools in the various engagements that we've had, the conversation is it is conversational. The tools that we've played around with and the agents that we've built with them, Praveen, I assume you've had a similar experience, but when I ask these tools a question based on what it is we built them for, the answers that I receive in turn, whether voice with Copilot and Amazon or chat with Salesforce Agentforce, as the voice capabilities aren't available yet, but the responses are very conversational and I would say pretty comfortable. Would you agree?
Yes, I mean it's significantly improved. So if you look at the journey, right, David, one is if you talk about traditional IVRs where it's a question and answer is pretty much scripted. Everything is very much scripted, and exactly what question is should be asked, and what's the next question is going to be asked, and then whoever is calling in as an end user, they're supposed to just key in those responses. And that's the exact path that anyone need to follow. But that has its own significant limitations. And the next phase of technologies that came in is to a certain degree being able to, instead of keying in every single thing, because not everything can be keyed in. Because if you ask, if an agent or if a business need to ask, what's your mailing address? Then it's not something that you keep on sitting and keying every single digit and every single letter of your entire address. Right. And no one wants to do that. That's not going to happen. So, I mean, the next phase that came in is being able to understand the speech and then being able to translate that into text and try to utilize that text as a response And to a certain degree, that phase is able to address the challenges of customers being able to or taking more responses before the call can be transferred to an agent, or try to process or try to address customer questions as quickly as possible. But in any of these systems, it's pretty much still scripted though. Every single business use case ought to be scripted exactly how, in what path you want to direct the customer, navigate the customer, what question to be asked, what's the response you're anticipating the customer should give, and try to translate that using a translation engine, and try to use that text to get the response and try to process the content. But one of the big challenge just that business are facing is today they happen to build this whole system with all their business use cases. But as like any business, nothing is going to be stagnant. Business, because depending upon how market shifts happen and changes happen, businesses continuously evolve. So their use cases continuously get evolved, their offerings continuously get evolved. So everything with this, what they're facing is they have to keep on scripting this again and over and over and over again. So it's not a one-time investment. It's just an ongoing, continuous investment, which at the end of the day, they don't see any ROI coming out of it, because um, instead of a human agent doing it, now they have probably engineers being hired to do a different place. It's just that they're shifting work from one place to another place, but it's not going away.
Right.
So that's where what business are looking at when everyone saw the potential in Gen AI is how AI be able to naturally understand customers' intent, and AI itself it would determine as to what operations to be performed. There's they want to get rid of that layer of fixed way of scripting each and every path how you have to navigate an end customer to do business with them. Rather, a customer should be able to naturally have a conversation. If you're have a conversation, say for example, if you're having a conversation with a car dealership saying, hey, I want to bring in my car for service.
Mm-hmm.
It's not something that you should be scripting it, saying that if someone asks for service, then you need to tell these are the services that are available. Next question, next question, next question. If you are scripting every single question, then instead of a human agent handling that call, you're just having engineers to script all of these things.
Right. And so as an example, sort of, I think, with what it is that we were working on, some of the stuff that we've explored, I'm able to ask one of these Gen AI tools, either via voice or chat. I could say something like, hey, Friday after next, I'm free for an oil change. I'm really only available between 8:30 a.m. and 10:30 a.m. Is the appointment going to last longer than an hour? If not, if it's going to last 45 minutes to 30 minutes, can you please, or 30 minutes to 45 minutes, can you please schedule me for a window between 8 a.m. and 10:30 a.m.? And they're able to come back and say, it's not going to last that long. It's only going to last for right around 45 minutes. We have a window from this time to this time. Does this work for you? And they're able to say, that to me. I could say yes, and they'll schedule me, send me a confirmation, and the appointment shows up in my customer record in your CRM of choice. You can't do that with some of the other stuff that has been available for some time that requires a lot of scripting and a lot of continuous work, right, Praveen?
Yeah, that's correct. I mean, that's the whole objective. What businesses are looking for in the Gen AI's ability, or Gen AI based conversational AI's ability to be able to naturally understand customer intents, and then the AI itself being able to understand as to how in order to satisfy customer requests, what actions to be taken.
Right.
So all the things that we need to provide to that AI is what actions, as a business, what actions I would allow in general, so that there is a cap and there's a check in place as to what AI can do. So those are all things that, as a business, they would specify as to what operations what all actions it is allowed to do, and then the AI would be able to understand the questions, and depending upon the intent of the customer, and if it is allowed to do certain operations, it will just do it.
So one thing that so we've talked a little bit or quite a lot about the comfort piece of this. Now, in terms of complexity and cost, we've touched on that a little bit. It sounds to me, Praveen, like some current on-premise Gen AI IVAs and other options that are out there are more complex and do require more work from your employees than a Gen AI piece would have. But onboarding new employees to fit or to do some of this Gen AI work, or helping your team acquire new skills, that is costly. And so, for most enterprise organizations, would you need your team to have new skills than perhaps they already have when it comes to supporting the current system that they have in place? Would they need to hire people for AI specific roles, or is this stuff in a place where the tools are already in your toolbox as an employee if you've been working on some of this premise or older IVR stuff to be able to support the new Gen AI pieces that are coming down the road?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I mean, that's one of the challenges challenges are in a way most of the businesses are asking for. Obviously, the complexity of it. That's really one of the reasons why we have chosen the current available platforms in the market today, and uh, identified what is out of these three choices, what would help businesses to not to have steep learning curve, or even how quickly they can go with their existing employees and the skill set they have, rather than trying to find new skill sets to begin with. So if you take, for example, on Salesforce Agent Force, as you pointed out again, David, they just released chat for it,
Mm-hmm.
and we're hoping they would release voice as well by the end of this year. But essentially, if you look at Salesforce as an example, if a customer is completely using Salesforce, they have all their business data and everything in Salesforce, then the complexity to get on board is very less, because all you're trying to do is, as the calls come in, you want to utilize Agent Force as your conversational IVA. And pretty much within Salesforce, they made it very intuitive for a Salesforce. I mean, if they already have Salesforce, then probably they would have some Salesforce engineers
Right.
on board to be able to even configure for their business needs. So they
And
would
so,
be
but
able
the
to,
same can
yeah.
be said, Praveen, for Microsoft shops for enterprises that are heavy invested into Microsoft. You've probably already got a team that is pretty good at all things Microsoft. So Copilot, that's not going to be a heavy lift in terms of your employees being able to support that. And we know that Amazon and AWS are growing every single day, and the number of companies that are using AWS tools are growing. And so I imagine if you're already pretty well versed in the way that most of Amazon's things work, there isn't a big lift there either, right?
Yes, it's not a big lift. I mean, we're looking at not. I mean, that entire technology lift is what these major organizations are already taking by themselves,
Yep.
and providing tools in a way to make it easy for businesses to adopt.
Okay. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And so when it comes to actually looking at each individual tune, Praveen, each individual tune. I'm sorry, I guess I got music on the brain for some reason. Each individual tool. For Amazon, would you say that some of the strengths are the the automation and voice-driven interactions and the breadth and depth of the various AWS tools that it can connect to?
Yes, I mean, as we all know, I mean, AWS has a major market share in terms of cloud adoption. I mean, if an enterprise, what we notice is if an enterprise is completely on AWS, they adopted AWS, they're on there, and they have various different, not just Salesforce, they may or may not be using Salesforce. Even if they use Salesforce, they may have other tools also in place for various other LOBs. In that case, obviously, it would be a natural choice for them to continue to be able to be on Amazon AWS and continue to utilize their resources so that they're not looking at another different type of technologies that they need to adopt or different engineers they need to hire versus someone who is, I mean, if they're already tuned into AWS, probably they already have engineers who knows AWS, how to turn on these services, and probably use new tool sets that they need to use.
And so for Copilot, they already have quite a suite of integrated AI solutions within the Microsoft world. I can access like Copilot in every single Microsoft tool that it is that we use. I have my action button on my phone set up so that when I press it, I can actually talk to Copilot and ask it a question and have a conversation with it. It's really quite neat. But so, given that it's so integrated with Microsoft tools everywhere, would it make sense that for a contact center or an environment where there's a lot of collaboration within employees, that Copilot and the tools that it offers would make sense for an enterprise to explore?
Yes, I mean, for whoever is on, I mean, we currently see as we work with recently with a couple of customers where they see significant. I mean, they have started exploring Copilot for quite some time, and they're trying to find on what all business use cases they can automate using Copilot within their organizations.
Right.
I mean, not just private organization, but we happen to work with recently with one of the even government agencies who is looking at exploring Copilot Studio, all the business use cases that they can bring into even a conversational IVA on Copilot. So again, so from their perspective, they're completely on Azure, and they're trying to utilize the Azure tool set, and they have various different applications, even homegrown application, and they are trying to integrate all of this using Copilot.
And let me tell you, the waffle recipe that Copilot gave me Sunday morning was incredible. It was really good. I'll share it with anybody who wants it. Bang up job. And then for Salesforce and Agentforce, this really, for the most part, makes the most sense for folks who are already using Salesforce. And with Salesforce's push of Service Cloud Voice and the various AI use cases that you can enable within, it really makes the most sense for Salesforce users to use Agentforce, right, Praveen?
Yes, I mean there's a lot of not enterprises, but as I was talking about, if it is a car dealership, for example, I mean they're not looking at a huge investment. They're not looking at huge traffic or like an enterprise organization, which is a multinational organization like that. So most of those such type of small mid-size organizations, they're trying to find ways on how to optimize and channel their resources to the place where the customers are. And for those organizations, they're looking at if Salesforce is the only organization tool that I happen to use, and that's where all of my customer data, all my business related entities and everything is in Salesforce. and that's the only place that I want to be on. For such organizations, agent force is significantly is going to be shaping them going forward. I mean, agent force would take that place where currently the customers are feeling the heat that they're not able to provide that comfort and convenience to the end customers, and they have to deal with having those customers waiting in the queues.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So one thing that you mentioned a few times, and this is a little out of order, but one thing you've mentioned a few times is the idea of getting agents out of queues, right? Or getting agents, getting calls, getting customers out of queues. And one of the things that a lot of my family and friends and other people that I talk to bring up often when I ask, what is one thing about a customer experience that you really don't like? And it's being put on hold. And I'm sure that's something that all of us can um, uh, all of us can empathize with. We've all experienced it. And so with some of these Gen AI tools, or with all of these Gen AI tools, if we're able to solve for a lot of use cases that really could be self-service and don't require a human agent, I think that's going to make the experience a lot better for a lot of people. So then, what should we do next? Jess, could you go to the next slide, please? So for us, this is the way that we think our customers and other folks who hopefully soon will be our customers ought to take a look at how to get this stuff in their environments and really play around with it. You could start with a small pilot. One way to really ramp up to that is maybe you do a sandboxing. Have us take on the burden of testing your use cases in our own environments before we put it in yours. Or we can, if you've already got an idea and you already know how it is that, or what tool it is that you want to use, and you've got your use cases pretty well fleshed out, maybe we skip the sandbox, we go right into loading this into your test environment and giving you an opportunity to have your agents play around with it and see what works and what doesn't work. Then let's take a look at layering conversational AI onto the previous investments you've already made, onto your premise environment, your premise telephony environment, onto the CRM that you have, and let's see if we can make what already works for you work even better. Then you also need to make sure that you're keeping, the comfort, complexity, and cost in mind as you make your decision. We hope that throughout any engagement that we have, that we're giving you all the information you need to make an informed decision, and that we're keeping it within that 3C framework, if you will. But then first and foremost, what really matters is, we can do all this testing, we can play with all this stuff, but if your IT teams, if your customer experience teams are still very weary and hesitant, then adoption isn't going to happen, and the investment wouldn't have been worth it. And so it really makes sense from our perspective to keep everybody involved in each step of this process the entire way. This stuff is new. There's a lot of preconceived notions and feelings and thoughts that people have around AI that results from unfamiliarity and inexperience in using it. And so the more people in your organization who really are able to put their hands on this and see how it works and ask questions, the more likely that this is going to be successful. Praveen, do you have any thoughts on what's next?
No, I mean, you pretty much covered the path that one of our customers, what our customers take today. Because as you laid out, everything is fairly new. Every business has their own stacks today, and they have their own business use cases, as well as applications and internal tools that they currently use. So it has to be. It's not something that it's going to plug in. It's going to work with everything out of the box. That's not.
Right.
I mean, we're not there yet in terms of just plug and play versus. We need to identify where the customer, where the business is, what or the contact center they have, and what all the technology stacks that they're using, and what is the best choice, best fit choice, depending upon their existing stack. And what's again, businesses don't want any disruption. How do we channel through that, so that business? How do we put together that solution with that doesn't have any disruption?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, Praveen. There are a lot of questions that our customers and those who are interested in this need to ask introspectively in order to make sure that this stuff is successful. But when it is successful, which it's going to be and has been, it's a lot of fun, and it's really cool to see our customers very quickly see a return on the investments that they've made and the work that they've done. So that pretty much does it for today and for this webinar. We're going to stick around for a little bit and answer any questions that anybody has. Contact information is right here on this slide for you. It is worth mentioning that for everybody who's attended, you do receive a complimentary 1-hour AI assessment. During that time, we'll take a look at your particular use cases and needs and the cost to fulfill those use cases. Just make sure you mention this. And this is not the first time we've offered this for some of these webinars. And so for those who are watching via clips posted on social, or if you've tuned into the entire thing on YouTube or something like that, make sure you come to the next one live and bring it up to us, because I'd love to be able to have a great conversation with you, as I'm sure Praveen would as well. So we'll hang around for a few minutes and answer any questions, but thank you guys very much for attending and hope to see you at the next one.